what are some of the untapped possibilities that you see over the next 3 years?
Now we are at that phase where those agents are getting combined. We create larger multi-agent systems, which similarly on how you operate a network with your team today, are going to take over more and more tasks and are going to integrate with your human workforce as well, which is another area that you need to focus on when we say upskilling. It's not only about your employees getting to know how the technology works, but also getting familiar, accustomed, and to a level develop trust.
Welcome to Discover Dialogues podcast, powered by Techdogs. The world of business and technology is evolving at breakneck speed. AI breakthroughs, digital transformation, and game-changing innovations are reshaping industries every day. On this show, we dive into the trends, ideas, and strategies driving the future. We're sitting down with industry leaders, innovators, and disruptors to bring you fresh insights, bold perspectives, and real conversations that matter. So plug in, tune in, and let's discover what's next.
Today on the show, we're joined by Markus Nispel, Chief Technology Officer for EMEA, Head of the Office of the CTO, and Head of AI Engineering at Extreme Networks. From building early mobile infrastructure in the 90s to integrating AI-driven intelligence into modern network platforms, Markus has had a front row seat to some of the most defining shifts in enterprise tech. And let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Techdogs Discover Dialogues, Markus. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Vikram, for having me. Really looking forward to today's conversation.
So, Markus, let's start with the journey behind the title. The long road that has shaped you as a leader today. Um, you've had a very interesting career spanning 3 decades. You probably outlived, every technological innovation to this date. You probably were hands-on in the start, and now you probably, leading things. And we're going to talk about AI, which are, obviously leading at Extreme Networks. But would love to unpack that journey a little and understand what your professional journey has been so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. As almost everyone, I guess, it was really hands-on at the beginning. So I really didn't start in networking at all. My focus was mobile and cellular communications, but in the mid 90s, I got introduced to networking and I started to like it right from the start. Joined one of the key players back then, which doesn't exist anymore, as a pre and post sales engineer, so supporting our sales activity in the region. But I quickly emerged from there, focused on everything that was new. And in the late 90s, early 2000s, there were a lot of new things in networking in terms of technology, the way things are getting approached. There was a lot of discussion, what is the winning tech at this point in time? So it
Right.
was really, and were really exciting times back then. During that time, I worked with thought leaders in that space, like in Europe, SAP, as well as CERN, the basically birthplace of the World Wide Web as we know it today, which might get
Yeah.
superseded on how agents and AI are going to approach this. But I really had the chance to work with those customers and develop my career from there. After that, I started focusing on security and software. So as networking started to mature in the mid 2000s, the focus was really how do you manage and automate those complex networks and how do you secure them more effectively. I started focusing on that. And soon thereafter, after mergers and acquisitions, I had the chance to lead a larger software engineering team as I moved to the US. And that I think was the starting point of my career in engineering, where despite defining our software strategy back then, I had to implement it as well. And we went on a journey of acquiring several companies as Extreme Networks. Actually, I also got into Extreme through an acquisition. And over the course of several years, we had to integrate 5 different acquisitions into our portfolio, and specifically me on the software side as it relates to network automation, analytics, and network security. The challenge was really how do you bring that portfolio together, and more importantly, how do you bring the teams that came in through those acquisitions together as well. And team is a key ingredient to success, and that really also shaped the way on how I think about team building, management, and how to be successful in software engineering overall.
So, Marcus, right from shaping teams, shaping technologies, I'd love to talk a little about where the industry is headed, especially now because AI is transforming everything, including networks, and specifically how they think and act. I don't think AI networking is a buzzword anymore. It's really defining everything, right? So right from operations to decision making, to the architecture beneath it all, uh, and I think it's becoming more and more intelligent and agent led. And what I would love to understand is, so because AI and enterprising is moving beyond automation, into predictive and even prescriptive intelligence, what are some of the untapped possibilities that you see over the next 3 years?
Yeah, absolutely. Also going back to your original question, that in my mind, I think it's really important before enterprises embark on a journey on AI, whether it's AI for networking or AI in general, for different solving different business problems. I think two lessons learned from my career are really important here to apply. The first one is really outcome first. So, what you're really trying to achieve applying that technology, because ultimately AI and
Yeah.
now agents are a tool to solve a problem. And what problem are you trying to solve? Yeah. In any case, that should be the first question you should ask yourself. And we did that as well, as we developed on our side Platform One, and me responsible for the AI capabilities within Platform One. We were asking ourselves, so what are you focusing on? And you said it rightly. Automation by itself is a key component, but it's the start and it's not the end. So our focus was really how do we reimagine every experience from the initial engagement of a customer or prospect with our platform to planning, deployment, operation, and then optimization. And how do you get into a continuous loop there to achieve outcomes and results that you were not able to achieve
Hmm.
before? And this is something that needs to be top of mind. And to create those outcomes, a second lesson learned from early in my career, I think is also important here. Form follows function. So if you want to, once you have defined your outcome and you created your vision, you need to make sure that your organization is aligned with that as well. So organization is really about people and processes. So you need to assemble the right team, the right mix of team where you have subject matter experts in whatever domain you're focused on, whether networking by itself is not one thing. Networking comes in different flavors. You have
Hmm.
Wi-Fi, you have wired, you have switching, you have fabric, you have wide area, you have cloud. You need to have subject matter experts that you combine with experts in AI technology today, and then somebody who has more of a beginners and innovation mindset to create really a new outcome. So you're not just accelerating and optimizing what you have today, but you're rethinking on how you approach a certain problem space. And I think that mix of creating the proper outcome, focus on high value outcomes, and align the organization and the processes around it is the recipe for success. And that applies across the board, whether it's AI for networking, networking for AI, or AI for any other business problem that you might want to solve.
And do you think that upskilling team, because this is a cultural shift, right? Do you think that upskilling teams is more urgent than changing the infrastructure itself when it comes to
Oh,
AI?
absolutely. Absolutely. Upskilling the teams, I think, is number one. First, you have to describe what you want to achieve, and then upskilling the team really comes in different flavors as well. As you, I
Hmm.
think we also see right now in the industry, the barrier to entry to AI as a technology is getting reduced by the day. If you think about new applications or new platforms, even like Lovable, where you have no code solutions
Right.
to develop with AI, whatever you can imagine. So the limit is what you can imagine, not really the technology anymore. This is almost not an issue as it relates to enterprises. You obviously need to give your employees room, time, and space, so to speak, to experience those new technologies and start leveraging that. But it's
Hmm.
also important to go back to the basics because AI is ultimately driven by data. So if you can't introduce a data centric and data first culture into your organization, everything that you try to do with AI is going to fail because AI is only as good as
As
the
your
underlying data and the accessibility to the data. So data quality, but also data governance is going to be important. And that also just comes with a data first mindset. So upskilling people is not only upskilling them in terms of AI technology, but also upskilling or reminding everybody of the value and importance of data in all dimensions. And I think that needs to be the first step for every enterprise. Otherwise, you're going down a route that you're not going to be successful.
and talking about tools and platforms, I think this whole AI thing, that the way it has played out in the last couple of years, it's been waves, right? The first wave was a lot of these chat bots, if I was to call them. Then there were these rappers, that were built on AIs, and then the latest has been agents. And I want to talk a little about agents, and in the context of enterprise networking, uh, you know, and maybe multi agents. What are your thoughts on that? What does the future look like?
Yeah, so that's absolutely the journey as you described it. I mean, AI is not really new. The technology has been around for quite a while. Um, and if you what you described as chatbots based on natural language processing have been around for a long time. We have seen that in online banking. Everybody gets frustrated with the inflexibility of those chatbots back then. But then everything got supercharged through generative AI based on Google's white paper attention is all you need. Obviously, OpenAI, ChatGPT came along and changed really the trajectory of AI because it made it accessible to everybody. So
Absolutely.
everybody was able to experience it in their private life and also in their business life. We on our side, we started to introduce machine learning technologies as we called it back then Copilot, which seems now very innovative in 2020 into our portfolio. But
Yeah.
those were domain specific machine learning models. But then we also saw what is happening in generative AI in 2022. We started to experiment with that. Yeah? And then ChatGPT came along, everything changed. But also, people soon recognized that large language models themselves are insufficient. Yeah, so you had to
Correct.
combine that with domain-specific models and specifically in networking with operational data. So then the concept of agents got introduced, tools that can access data through APIs and other forms got introduced, and then people recognized, oh, an agent can't do everything. You need to specialize an
Hmm.
agent on certain tasks. You tailor their capabilities and the tools that they have access to those tasks, and then you combine those agents in a team that can achieve more complex tasks that a language model by itself or a domain specific model wasn't able to achieve either. And now we are at that phase where those agents are getting combined. We create larger multi agent systems
Hmm.
which similarly on how you operate a network with your team today are going to take over more and more tasks and are going to integrate with your human workforce as well, which is another area that you need to focus on. When we say
Hmm.
upskilling, it's not only about your employees getting to know how the technology works, but also getting familiar, accustomed, and to a level develop trust to collaborate with those systems. So those multi-agent systems,
Hmm.
as they emerge today, become an extension of your human team. And this is only going to be successful if there's trust, because trust will drive adoption, will drive success in any of
Hmm.
those projects. And the same is true for network in its networking and the entire life cycle, from planning, onboarding, operations, and optimization at the end of the day.
And you mentioned multi agents. You know, uh, just from a timeline perspective, how far do you think we are truly away from operationalizing them across maybe enterprise environments? 2 years, 1 year, 3 years?
Yeah, so I think the technology is there. We in our platform have the underlying technology is a multi-agent system by itself. It's starting
Hmm.
to become something that people adopt. I would say the same way on how my prediction was for this calendar year 25 is the year of agents. I think calendar year 26 is the year of multi-agent systems that are going to go into production.
Hmm.
And again, the technology is there. It's about whether people can trust the system and will trust the system. So transparency, explainability, governance, and giving users the ability to stay in control
Hmm.
of what is happening is critically important. And we designed our platform one in a way that users can interact with the system and are in control of what's happening. And we feel this is going to drive again adoption. And to me, calendar 26 is going to be the year of multi-agent
Okay.
systems going into production at scale and getting adopted specifically by customers at scale, at least the early adopters and the thought leaders in this space.
Marx, obviously you've had that front row seat to building AI into enterprise grade platforms. And in developing something like AI for Platform One, uh, what is it that you've learned or experienced when you're building, platforms at scale? uh, because there's, like you said, there's a market shift for agents, and obviously the user experiences are going to change. It's going to impact transparency, it's going to impact trust. uh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. On building it at scale, it goes back to this is still a software problem. So I think this is also a misconception that a lot of people out there think AI is like magic, it's a magic wand, but ultimately, especially on the agent side, it's not just data science and AI as a technology. More than 50% of those agents is just traditional software engineering and software engineering at scale. So we at Extreme have a long history of cloud-based platforms that we are able to scale into the millions of managed endpoints already. So for us, it wasn't a big leap scaling those platforms also for AI and for agents. But we also had to scale and
Hmm.
re-engineer our data pipeline that comes along with it, which we did, which was part of Platform One. I mentioned it before. Data is king. Data is really important, and we saw that as well when we started a couple of years ago with our early machine learning models. That we need to pay a lot of attention to this, and this is baked into the Platform One architecture, redesigning the data pipeline from the device into the cloud, make it scalable, ensure that data governance is being implemented correctly. This is critically important because as AI is shining and is being most effective, if you combine diverse set of data with each
Hmm.
other, data governance and data control becomes important at that data layer as well as the agent layer as well. So you need to pay close attention to that. And that allows you to then effectively scale the system.
Marcus, now that we've kind of talked about, how you build things for the future, and you obviously built it at scale, I would love to now talk about how you've led through it. Because every transformation meets resistance, change is inevitable. uh, but leading through change, takes a lot of trust, clarity, and a lot of intent. Uh, what is your approach to ensuring that teams embrace and not resist such transformations?
Yeah, that is a challenge. Obviously, everywhere. Change management. There's inertia. There's the unknown. There's like pushing back. Oh, new technologies. How this is going to work. It goes back to the basics that I mentioned earlier on. What I learned in my career. First and foremost, you need to create and share the vision on where you wanted to go using that new technology with everybody. And you need to ensure that your team is buying into that vision. Yeah. So having a
Hmm.
common North Star is essential to be successful. If people can see that sometimes bumpy road and challenges that they're going to face, it's worthwhile because at the end of the road there's the outcome that you jointly agree upon and can achieve. I think this is the most important point in all of this. Yeah, if you can't describe it, if you can't paint that vision, and if you can't get your team onto that journey together, then you're going to fail. You know?
Hmm.
That is important. And as you think about how you're going to create your strategy to achieve that goal, you need to make sure that the team alignment is also there. So putting the right people in the right place in your organization is going to be important. And then showing early success is critically important as well. From my point of view, I always like to give the team wide guardrails. So within those guardrails, they can innovate and they can figure out themselves on how they achieve those milestones and those goals that prove
Hmm.
that the technology is viable. But you need to find that mix of, hey, this is our North Star, but then give guidance, but also flexibility so the team can contribute and innovate along the journey. And that to me has been a recipe for success. And I hope this is going to be a recipe for success for everybody who's listening and trying to implement that as well within their own organization.
But how do you strike that balance between freedom for innovation and giving some sort of structure, or maybe perhaps, like you said, providing guardrails? How do you strike that balance?
I think striking the balance comes with time and experience. It's like you're trying to conquer a hill in a battle. Yeah, you can tell everybody exactly what way to take to get up the hill to conquer that, or you
Hmm.
can just describe them the outcome. Hey, that milestone is conquer that hill. However you get there is up to you. And what I feel is that, and what I have experienced is that the team is way more motivated if they can add their own creativity and their own input into the process. And you just need to have controls in place where you control at each and every step. Okay, is the team moving toward that outcome? Will they be able to
Hmm.
achieve that outcome? And that's just more continuous monitoring and coaching, but not micromanaging the team itself. And that balance, I think, comes with experience, comes with time, and has proven to be successful. And sometimes you need to take a leap of faith with a team that you know that they're
Hmm.
going to do the right
Right,
thing.
yeah.
So it's not only trust in the technology, but trust in the team and the leadership of the team that you have put in place will allow you to get there.
So, Marcus, I think in the 3 decades that you've been at the helm of things, you've probably figured out that there's a huge difference between acing trends and setting them. Uh, you've probably seen both in action. Uh, what do you think really distinguishes a truly innovative CTO, from the one who's just trying to keep up with what's happening?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I think first and foremost, I call it the shiny object syndrome that happens everywhere. Where there's a new technology, people are trying to follow that and blindly try to implement that in their own business. I think the first priority is really to understand your business and the
Hmm.
business challenges. Yeah? And if you don't start there, then you're just applying technology to something that you don't know what the outcome is going to be. Yeah? I think that's the starting point. The second perspective and vantage point that you probably want to take is not only understanding your business, but really imagine how a competitor might be able to disrupt your business. So, really understand how that new technology that is coming along could be used by somebody else to change the entire trajectory of the market that you are in. I
Yeah.
think this is going to be important. There are couple of techniques. Some call it the nightmare competitor exercise, where you imagine really how a startup would break into your market and just take your business, the entire foundation away. Once you have recognized that, then I think it's obvious what you need to do. Instead of getting disrupted by somebody, you need to disrupt yourself. And this is, again, sometimes really hard because, as you mentioned as well, there's a lot of inertia and like pushing back in the organization. You need to find the right setup. And there you need to decide for yourself what's the best approach. Are you trying to revolutionize your business, or are you trying to evolve it? And if so, at what pace? So you can either take the existing team, change it, and transform it, or you build an entire new organization in parallel. And I think this is really case dependent, and case by case you need to decide what the best approach it is. And it's not an easy decision to make. Yeah.
I want to double click on something that you said was very interesting. You said you disrupt yourself before you get disrupted. Uh, how does one do that? And I mean, how do you stay sharp to understand what's coming next?
I mean, how do you stay sharp on what's coming next? You need to introduce the same way we talked about creating a culture or data first culture. You need to create an innovation first culture as well. So we have, and I started the office of the CTO at Extreme 4-5 years ago,
Hmm.
where we had exactly that charter, identify inflection points that are either opportunities or risks for the organization. So you need to have not only a dedicated team, but also a process inside of your organization where you bubble up ideas and early signs of market changes from your employees that are at the front line.
Hmm.
And you put it into a process, and you create a radar of opportunities and risks around technology, but also changing market conditions that then allow you to assess them and identify a strategy on how you respond to them. Whether it's through an acquisition, whether it's a portfolio expansion, or whether it's a
Hmm.
true disruptive technology where you have to reimagine your business as well. And how you again respond to it could be you develop something on your own, you create an incubation um, initiative or an incubator, which we did on our side, or sometimes you just have to acquire that technology and that spirit and create that catalyst or the ignition of a change in your business through an acquisition that allows you to get there. So identifying trends is, again, it's a little bit of a cultural change, a process change, and you need to have an entity who is responsible to create what is coming in, and then you have to have your strategy on how you respond to it. Change in portfolio, direction, technology, partnerships, or a merger and acquisition to respond to it.
And what's that one piece of advice you would give future networking technology professionals who want to grow into leadership roles?
That one advice, that is a difficult one. To me, it was always stay curious and always try to learn and never stand still. If you stand still, you're going back. And as you evolve your career, you will see that as you get curious and you always take on new challenges, your leadership skills will mature. And the most important lesson that I learned as part of this, it's all about the team. You by yourself cannot be successful. You can only make your team successful, which in turn will make yourself successful.
So great conversation so far, Marcus. And before we let you go, would love to shift gears a bit. Would love to go for a quick round of rapid fire questions to get to know the human behind the title and the tech and the innovation. So let me know when you're ready and we'll go for it.
Yeah, I'm ready.
First piece of tech that you ever worked on.
Token ring.
One AI trend you think is overhyped.
I think everything in AI is both overhyped and underhyped. I think that's
I
a difficult
completely.
one. Yeah. So I think we would need to create a new hype cycle when it comes to AI. So the interesting part of this is, to me, AI is like, it's like the internet, like mobile. It's a general purpose technology, so nobody really knows where it goes. So that's why I'm saying at the same time, everything is overhyped and underhyped, because we can't really imagine how AI is going to change and transform our, not our, just our market, but the entire society and humanity over the next couple of years. So it's both over and underhyped at the same time.
Coffee, tea, or something stronger after a stressful day.
Coffee. I'm a coffee person.
If you weren't in tech, what career path do you think
Oh, if I
you'd
weren't
clear?
in tech, what career path would I have picked? I was almost entering a path in finance. Would have been interesting, I guess, as well. But somehow I ended up in tech because I was just way too curious and I just like math and physics too much. Yeah.
What's that one thing your team would say that you do is very Marcus?
Oh, very Marcus. That is interesting. Yeah. I think giving the team space to innovate, that is very Marcus. I think my team appreciates that quite a lot. So I hear that regularly.
What's that first thing that you do when you wake up?
When I wake up, the first thing is I walk to the coffee machine.
Okay. One tech tool or app that you can't live without. Personally, not professionally.
Personally, I'm also a heavy user of ChatGPT lately, I have to say. So that helps in a lot of cases. That is also true professionally, but professionally, as we are a big Microsoft shop, we are all about Copilot and everything that Microsoft provides. Yeah.
What's your weekend guilty pleasure? Is it binge watching, cooking, or something else?
On the weekend, the kids keep me busy, so there's nothing else than driving them from one event to the other, sports, this, that. So the weekends are really busy, so there's not a lot of time actually. Yeah. The only thing I do, if I have time, I just go on a bike ride. So that is the most relaxing part of the weekend. Yeah.
And one final one before we let you go. If your life had a motto, what would it be?
There's always something new to explore and find out. I think this is the main driver for me. Yeah.
All right. So, Marcus, thank you so much for this insightful conversation. You've talked about scaling AI responsibility to maybe leading with vision. Uh, you know, Obviously, you've offered a lot of valuable lessons for our audiences and technologists and future leaders alike. So, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah, pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or your favorite podcast app. Catch past episodes and more at techdogs.com. See you next time.